let's go ahead and kick things off. Great to have an interview with you. Virgil,
Yeah, no worries.
for those who don't know, can you tell us what it is that you do at Embark Studios?
Yeah, so I'm the design director for the Arc Raiders project.
That's awesome. And for those tuning in, as you know from the title, this is an exclusive interview that we got ahead of the release of Arc Raiders. So by the time this comes out, hopefully you'll be getting on your hands on the game very soon. And you've given us the opportunity to just dive into some questions to talk about the game, some behind the scenes development. So let's just hop right in. My first question, this is something I've been very curious since the very first time we saw Arc Raiders back at the Game Awards announcement. Shortly afterwards, we made a video covering it, and we saw the post that you guys had made, like detailing how the AI combatants have been constructed, how they you'd gone about training them instead of a traditional animation pipeline. My question was, where did that idea first come from? Did you guys have any inspiration that led to that being a viable option? Like where did that even start?
Well, actually, since I've been on the project for about 4 years, so that even predates me.
Oh, wow.
So I wouldn't be able to tell you the true origins, but I think a lot of it came from Embark's ambition to try to use emerging technology in ways that could, benefit creating new and novel experiences in games, and obviously having something that can react as realistically as possible to the things that you're doing with it is super compelling. So it's been one of the earliest endeavors I'm aware of at the entire company.
I guess at that point, predating the finals, since this would be essentially right when things were kicking off and before the swap.
Yes, absolutely. This would have been like month 2 or 3 probably of the studio existing. So definitely prior to the finals for sure.
And early on philosophy. Well, then if you don't know the actual origins, maybe you can speak a little bit to how it currently functions. So what the training pipeline is like for enemy behavior, what data sources or inputs you use, or if it's just paying attention to actual player behavior over time and how they get trained.
Yeah, so I mean, to get truly specific answers, I would definitely encourage you email through and get you in contact with our engineers and stuff. But just to slice it by specifics a little bit, the behavior of our AI is solely done through design and engineering. We make all of those behaviors. We implement how they behave and think and react to players. The only side of it that utilizes the training tech is for the legged robots that maneuver across terrain. And so instead of using a traditional A-star or other type of navigation tech for that, they are trained to actually look at, they do a lot of ray traces and stuff to look around their environment and then can make decisions within constraints about how to move themselves, and that relies on physics. So they know they can move a given leg this far and in this range of motion, and they know that they need to achieve reaching to a certain target or a certain position or a certain whatever. And then that's how they're trained, basically, is to read the environment and plant their feet in the correct locations to achieve their goal. But in terms of how they fight and things like that, that's just good old-fashioned design and engineering work.
Well, so obviously you mentioned constraints. There's some stuff that you have to program in and say, hey, you can't jump across the entire map. Are there times when you're making these robots that you've been able to construct them in a way that's almost too powerful, and you've had to dial them back, no, this is way too strong for the players to handle?
I mean, if you think the Leaper is a bit of a menace now, you should have seen the first few goes where it would just not only jump on you once, but just multiple times while you were stationary. So it was it got its job done quite correctly, but it was a bit much. And then of course with the really huge robots, they have a lot of things to consider when they're maneuvering, and one of the Achilles heel for them early on was very, very small, very thin objects that still had collision. So they'd take a step that seemed fine, but it would clip into their foot and then send them flying off into the stratosphere. So it kind of made for an anticlimactic end to some of those larger encounters.
I mean, we kind of see a little bit of that with the Leaper. I noticed during our time, playing with them and fighting, that it struggles, or at least it seems to struggle with when it wants to leap at you and you can get something in between you and the Leaper. It's kind of like a gameplay decision of, if I can get a tree or some sort of metal beam in between us, then it's going to hit that instead, and so I can be safe and maneuver as a gameplay option, which is really cool. I guess in that same category, when it comes to designing these enemies, does that give you the design space with this type of training and modeling, to make them harder? As you talked about environmental changes that you can make, things in the world that are different, like electricity, or I think drone swarms was another. Does that give you the space to tune up these combatants in the future to make them even more difficult as a modifier to the game?
I mean, it certainly gives us the possibility to do so by having them be capable of navigating complex terrain and not necessarily needing really neatly arranged props or perfectly flat ground for them to get over. It gives us a lot of good ground to have them kind of surprise you. And I mean, a video that maybe you have seen that's kicking around is the Leaper chasing this group of players through a tunnel.
I don't think I have seen it. No.
It's
I haven't
very
seen that
compelling. It basically, they tried to lure it into what they thought was a trap, and then it just starts chasing them down this giant drainage tunnel, and they're frantically dropping their items to lose weight so they can run faster, and it does not end well for them. But I think that's one of those times where it gives us ideas of how to maybe actually very purposefully lean into those situations. So certainly something we've been looking into recently is how to have even more compelling enemies that can navigate smaller, tighter interior spaces, whereas normally that can be quite a challenge for AI to cleanly move through those spaces without getting like snagged on stuff.
Yeah, I know. Even the drones are pretty careful when they go inside, and like it allows people to hop on top and take them down pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But moving over to another aspect of, I guess, post-launch, you guys have yet to release a roadmap. I think there was a tease in that we'll get a roadmap at some point soon.
Like maybe within 24 to 48 hours, probably.
Okay, awesome.
Wow.
So essentially,
I know we're working on it right now, but it's going to come pretty soon here.
Okay.
It'll have some of the immediate future stuff laid out.
well, hopefully by the time this video's out, the roadmap will be out, and we'll have our own
Ideally,
video
yes.
discussing that. But in looking, I guess, a little bit past the roadmap, more as in like the choice in how these updates get pushed. You guys have talked about adding things like enemies and maps and weapons just in the future at some point. And my question for you is that if these things are going to be added to the game, do you guys envision taking a much more fast approach of, hey, let's just throw updates into the game and like make sure that we get them in the hands of players? Or would you rather it be story, like evolving on the story of Arc Raiders at the same time, like different, I guess, expansions that build on the world that we already have? So for instance, diving into the codex in the preview, we got this idea of there being this first wave of Arc that arrived and then a second wave of Arc that arrived. Could you see enemies being added into the game as like this third wave of Arc?
Right.
Adding in.
I mean, in terms of like, will we drip feed stuff in versus like these content pieces that are more centered on stuff? It's probably going to be a mix, but my estimation would be it'd be biased towards the bigger beats of things like that. It's very nice to introduce content when it has context. So like if we unveil a new location, what's the technology and story of that location? What are the AI present and the new opportunities for players there? So I think it makes for a more cohesive experience when you have like a new set of things that make sense together coming out. But certainly if there's need or opportunity, we're not hesitant, I think, to add a system or a weapon or a whatever into the game. And I think we have pretty good flexibility on our team to be able to do and react to things as needed. So yeah, I think whatever works, honestly, is what we'll go for.
Sweet. Because I mainly, like, my main point of asking that is just because I think the story's really, really cool. Just from the small snippets we've seen, like, it's been a long time since I've dove into a game and thought, there's so much mystery here. There's so much more to build off of and evolve with. And even the opportunity of soon seeing updates where it's like, hey, we're building on the story even further than what we've even seen with just like the questing that's in game.
I think on launch, you'll be probably pretty pleasantly surprised. Or when this goes out, I guess people already know what's going on. But there's something that I think will entice people very early.
All right. I'll wait patiently.
Kind of specifically talking about narrative, in the TwitchCon Q&A, there was the talk that Arc Raiders is considered to be a 10-year game. And I know that a lot of development decisions for some games are made based on player feedback or what players want to see, don't want to see. For narrative specifically, is that planned out far in advance, or is it, we'll make it up as we go and see where the story takes us in real time?
I mean, it's not planned out in like a hyper rigid way, but we know the larger beats of what's occurring in our story. We know the pieces of content or like the moments in the story we want players to experience. So some of it might be reactionary based on like players might really like this type of map next or something, and then we can maybe take that fork of the story or whatever makes sense there. But no, I think we have a pretty good idea of like where the sort of plot is starting and then where we're going to take it, certainly for like a good while. And then the content will help inform that and vice versa, I think, is the exact route. But yeah, it's starting out at a point where like the Raiders and like the people in Speranza are starting to look like they're actively trying to figure out what is happening rather than just hiding and reacting. So that's sort of the cusp where we're coming into the story, and that's sort of where we're going to springboard from going forward.
Okay. That's super
That's
sick.
awesome.
And I guess that even plays into the story of how like Stella Montes is going to come into the game, whatever that is, seeing that these tubes are being, like the traps are being removed and we'll get access to be able to go there. Question for the actual like players and the player experience you guys have had so far. We've had things like the tech tests, we've had things like the most recent server slam. Is there anything just immediately you've seen that players do that has been exploitative, or strategies, different things that you want to react to almost immediately, be like, oh, we need to correct this or fix this, or even we think this is interesting, we want to build on it further?
Well, yeah, it's been a bit of both, honestly. I mean, if you played in the server slam or saw some of that stuff, players found some really fun things right away. One was the carry objects launching into the stratosphere.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
It was an unfortunate combination of physics and latency that we did fix almost immediately, thankfully. And then there was kind of I guess it became almost infamous. Players could bypass a key door on the control tower in the dam. And initially that was left in very intentionally. We thought it was kind of a fun way for players to like risk falling to their death to get into that. But over time we made some improvements to our kind of like mantling and vaulting system that made it probably a bit too easy to just drop off the ledge and climb in there. So we had to correct that. But I was a little surprised to the extent at which players did just go there and, you know, risk falling to their death, but they got good enough at it that it was, I think, less risk for them to deal with that. But yeah, mostly I'm curious to see how players figure out how to like cheese the drones and some of our harder things, because I guarantee they'll find things that we have not tried. So how we adapt to that's going to be fun.
I'm sure at some point, because those Rocketeers are crazy, and if there's a cheese to deal with them, then I think players will 100% lock onto that.
Oh yeah.
Moving on again, so I want to talk about monetization, because it's something that I'm always interested when it comes to games. Like, how is it that they are monetizing? Like, obviously with Arc Raiders, it's a purchasable game, but there's also monetization through customization through both Raider decks and an in-game store. And in previous tech tests and play tests, we've seen things like when you level up, you get Raider tokens, which is the currency in game that you can buy some of these premium items. Same thing with like there was a mastery tab at one point, which we didn't really have a ton of time to like complete the different things in it, but it looked like that you could get Raider tokens from that as well. And in the most recent server slam, it did look like the Raider deck has some premium currency that you can get. The Raider deck is free, so anyone can get access to, I think it's 500 tokens that were available in the server slam. But looking forward, is there, I didn't see any of the like the level ups and the masteries we didn't see, so that's still, I guess, behind closed doors. But what are all of the methods in game that players have available to them to potentially earn some of these cosmetics that are tied to the premium currency? How can they go about doing that? What systems you guys have set up?
Well, I guess two parts. Players can earn cosmetics themselves by leveling up, by doing quests, and a couple of other in-game activities. So there's no cost associated with that. The Raider deck itself, we're launching with one that is free and without a time limit, and that is solely advanced and purchased by in-game effort. And then on the premium currency side of things, I think we've talked a little bit about like we will eventually introduce like premium currency or purchasable Raider decks, and that's at the same time that we will look into implementing or re-implementing those systems by which you can earn premium currency. But at launch, there won't be a tie-in for that.
Okay. Cool. So once they start getting a little bit more integrated with, okay, here's some premium decks. Like, we want you guys to be able to earn these through gameplay.
Exactly. And as you said, you can still through the free Raider deck get some premium currency. So maybe you save that up, or maybe you spend it on cosmetics, right away.
Have you guys considered adding that as an incentive to the project system for players?
Yeah, I mean, we've looked at it kind of across the board of like where it would make sense to allow players to earn premium currency at a rate that like feels okay for like the amount of effort they have to spend and things like that. But yeah, I don't think we're opposed to that whatsoever. Just doing it where it makes sense to.
The one thing that people keep talking about with Arc Raiders, like, and this is something that I care about a lot as well in my gameplay, is just the sound design. The sound design, it feels like it's absolutely been nailed on this game, both in the actual in-game environments and like everything from birds to footsteps to the enemies that have these unique different like tones that tell you, I guess what was mentioned is this context that you need because you don't have things like HUD elements that give you this idea of, oh, this enemy's at half health or they're attacking you. And the soundtrack is the other side of it, where it's just this beautiful score that's been added to the game. We've seen some of that released on Spotify. Hopefully at some point soon we'll get the full soundtrack available. But who's the like the mind behind this? Who's the team behind essentially the sound design? Like, they do a really good job.
It's we have one of our audio directors, Benza. He's definitely like one of the biggest proponents behind all of this. And then we have a few others like Olaf, who's an audio engineer and programmer, and Simon, who handles a lot of like the ping and VO and things like that. So it's a pretty small team, and they punch well above their weight. But I personally, I can talk just from my own interactions with Benza, who just extreme attention to detail on all of these things. Like if we need a sound for anything, he's down there like smacking pieces of metal together and like twisting a thing with a ratchet, and like it was all of it is captured for real as much as possible. And they recently did a chat on a different podcast where they talk about the audio design quite in depth. So you can hear them like really nerding out about how they put all this stuff together. But there's so much thought goes into it, because I actually sit there and look at an enemy and go, okay, how does this thing actually work on the inside? Is it like gears? Is it rotors? Is it exhaust fan, or is it an intake? And then they actually like think about these things and go, okay, well, now how does that sound after it's been shot a few times? And then they screw it up and like stick a fork in a fan blade, and then so I think that extreme attention to detail just comes through in the final product, where everything has this like really nice texture and nuance to it that you can't really get, I think, if you didn't go that far.
That's awesome. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, if we so once whatever that podcast is where they go in depth, I imagine we'll be able to find that online once embargo lifts.
Yeah.
We will have that linked down below.
No, actually, I think that's live now.
Oh, is it? All right, awesome.
Benza Pedro and Olaf Stromquist with Arc Raiders. It's a thing called audio logs, and hopefully you can find some good tidbits in there. It's about an hour and a half long, so there's a lot to cover.
Beautiful. The more in depth, the better. There's just been so much like on the development side that's like really like I want to know how it works, because it's just so the final product is very impressive.
What is your favorite map in the game, and what do you think will surprise players most about being on that map? Like a mechanic or an event or an enemy type on that map that will be fun for players to experience for the first time.
Yeah, well, since you're in the preview event and this will be after live, I think Blue Gate is going to be probably the most surprising to players, especially if they're already familiar with the game pretty well, because we've had Dam, Buried City, and Spaceport, and they're kind of deserty. Obviously, Dam has like the swamp area and stuff, but Blue Gate is a truly new biome that players haven't really experienced before. And the fact that the level is basically half this overground mountainous area and half this gigantic underground facility, I think really is a new thing that players haven't seen in our format. So it's proven pleasantly surprising to me how much time a player can spend in one place or the other and feel like they're having a pretty complete experience, instead of needing to like move through the whole map or kind of observe the whole map like you might do on the other ones. So I think Blue Gate affords a lot of fun changes in gameplay as you move throughout it that I really enjoy.
Yeah, no, the 100% agreed there, because the scale is like we talk about it in our videos, that the scale of that map is actually crazy. Like going down into the bottom area and just looking up at how deep underground you are. And in our time, I mean, we only had a couple hours, but we were able to go into like these different side passageways and small rooms and escalators, and we didn't even get to explore the entire village and Pilgrim's Peak, like all these different spots. Like there's so much more for us to see. So yeah, the snap of that map is genuinely impressive.
Yeah, no, it's been fun to work on.
My question is if we can ever get to the top of that antenna. That's what I was looking for, because the snap hook only goes
clever
20.
with some zip lines, you might be able to get up there. Yeah.
If you could tell the audience one thing, like, hey, about the game, either something you're passionate about or something that they should be aware of, what would you like to say?
I feel overall it's for players who might be hesitant around this type of genre or how punishing this type of game can be. We've added what I think is a lot of good features that make it more approachable for people on that end of things. And we've added a lot of things that don't necessitate you extracting successfully to still make progress, and some safety nets in the game that make it okay to fail and keep going. And I care a lot more about them being able to get back into the rounds and have those fun experiences and generate those stories. And so all I would really encourage people to do is give the game a try. And if those things do it for you and it brings you into a new genre and a new way of playing games and a new way of experiencing stories and interactions, please do so. If you don't like it, fine, it's okay. But at least give us a shot, because I certainly personally value these styles of games where you get this sandbox to kind of play inside of and generate these really interesting stories with other people and the interactions you have with them. So if we've rather managed to lower the barrier to that for new people to come in and have that experience, I would really like for them to give it a go.
That's honestly, that's a great message for our audience, because a lot of us, people we make videos for, are playing Destiny, which is a very different type of looting game compared to one that is an extraction shooter where you have there's that risk that you lose some stuff. I do want to tack on just a little extra question onto that, because you mentioned about staying in the round and being able to get back in. And in game, there's an item called defibrillator, which lets you revive your teammates really quickly. But once you're actually like knocked completely out, you're out of the round and you're spectating. Has there ever been like talks about maybe there's a system where you like a super rare item that could let you bring your teammate back in? Or is that something that you want to stay away from, of like, we still want that high level of risk? Like if you're out, you're out.
So, I mean, certainly we've talked about it. It's not always the best thing in the world to like perhaps get knocked out quite early and your friends are either needing to choose to extract right away, or, you know, you're sitting there kind of watching them. But it's, as you say, I think it's one of those things where we really kind of need it in place to preserve that risk versus reward, and like actually, you know, encouraging you to play more cohesively as a team and like try to mitigate those situations where you're caught out and get knocked early. And it's also an affordance thing in terms of understanding the pace of play. So, you know, if you can never be kind of certain a fight is over, if people are just getting each other up, even past like being knocked out, then it gets a little muddy for how like definitive fights can be. And maybe there is something around it being a super rare item, but then I think then we're in territory of players need to understand that that's occurring like during those fights. So how do we telegraph that? How do we make it present in gameplay that you can understand what's going on and how to deal with that?
Gotcha. Yeah, no secret revives behind the scenes. Like you got a flare or something. It's just okay. Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah, it's definitely like even bringing it up as a possibility. I'm not totally sure that's something I'd want either, because it's just there is that tension that exists of you're out and you're out, like, and your teammate has to come pick you up, or it's the next round.
Get your stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that I guess concludes our interview. Thank you so much, Virgil.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sitting down, talking with us. Very
I can
excited.
definitely vouch to the being newer to extraction shooters as a genre, and having that low barrier to entry, being able to go in with a free loadout, learn the ropes, you know, like you're having fun with your friends, even if you're dying and figuring it out. So I can definitely vouch to that experience that you're trying to create for someone newer to the genre. So thank you for your time.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
And then to everyone watching, you can pick up Arc Raiders on Steam, Xbox, and PlayStation. Is it Epic Games too? You can get it on Epic Games? All right. So you can get it on PC and console. And that comes out on the 30th. Go check it out, and we'll be streaming if you want to watch us, and if you want to help make that decision and see if you're interested. So thank you so much, Virgil. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. See ya.
Slap that like button like your mama told you right.